Throughout most of my life, I found myself in a contradicting position. Where on one hand, many people would say, "You're too white to be Mexican." While on the other hand, they'd say, "You're too Mexican to be white." This was Brianna Andrade's response to when asked the question, "What was one of the biggest struggles you faced while growing up as a Chicana?" I know Brianna from high school and church, and over the years I've really gotten to know her well. She is an excellent student, a hardworking individual, and above all else, she is someone who takes pride in her ethnicity and her sense of identity. These qualities help me to better understand and view Brianna for who she is, but many other people in her life only view her through a lens of stereotype. I would now like to highlight some of the main points that provide insight to the judgment that Brianna has faced. Brianna comes from a Mexican family who really values their culture. As a Chicana, her entire family was bilingual except her. Spanish wasn't her native language. But because of this, her Hispanic friends in high school would discriminate against her. Her desire to learn to speak Spanish was hindered by those around her because they would tease and belittle her attempts to speak Spanish. Because she couldn't understand it at a young age, her Hispanic friends did not truly recognize her to be one of them. Instead, they only viewed her as someone who was too white to be Mexican. And this was but just one end of the spectrum of judgment, whereas the other end was equally damaging to Brianna's sense of identity. Coming from a small town with a primarily white population, Brianna also received judgment from these people as well, which contradicted that of her Hispanic friends. Many white classmates, and even some adults, would only view Brianna at the surface level of her situation. They would recognize that she comes from a Mexican teen mom, and they would automatically assume that she'd fall under that same stereotype, that she too would start a family of her own at a young age, just like every other Mexican they knew. Brianna found it difficult to associate herself with her Hispanic friends, and she found it difficult to associate herself with the white population, because the white population would automatically categorize her as someone who was too Mexican to be white. These situations caused Brianna to burden feelings of conflict, even though she still held on to her sense of pride in her ethnicity. This conflict wasn't really helped until this most recent year in college, where she took her first Chicano studies class. Their very first assignment was to define the terms Chicano, Hispanic, Latino, and Mexican, and shortly after, consider which of the terms applied to themselves. In this moment, Brianna realized it was a rare opportunity for her to freely and proudly label herself as a Chicana, which opposed all the previous times in her life where other people would label her for her. This class helped Brianna to better understand what it meant to be a Chicana, as she noticed that society before had tried to strip her of her identity by people inside and outside of her race. She had a better understanding that her sense of identity was not just limited to her ethnicity, though, as she also understood that hardships and other aspects of her life were actually taken into consideration as well. Up until this assignment, I had never really interviewed anyone before, but I tried my best to help it run as smoothly as possible. Throughout the entire interview, Brianna's body language was relaxed, and it was held over a casual environment over a FaceTime call. Brianna's answers to each of the questions were genuine and wholehearted and answered in complete length. And I believe this is due to the fact that Brianna was extremely intrigued by the topic that we had to discuss. I believe that the overall interview went well, but if I were to make some adjustments, there were two major changes. First, I would try to plan sooner so that I would be able to hold the interview in person, and I would have been able to record the entire interview. Second, I would have chosen to change from an answer question format to an open-ended discussion so that we could go back and forth and I could understand her situation better. Thank you.